And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello. Happy New Year. It's good to be back with you. And I'm so excited to welcome tonight Oscar-winning screenwriter turned debut writer, Iris Yamashita, here to give us the inside scoop on her brand new book out tomorrow, City Under One Roof, blowing up with all the amazing reviews. Iris, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Hi, Sarah. Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but I didn't actually win the Oscar. I was only nominated.
Oscar nominated, excuse me.
It's always great to dream. So thank you so much.
Yay. So Iris, first you were writing screenplays, now you're writing thrillers. Tell us about this fabulous, chilling thriller set in Alaska.
Well, thank you so much. So the story is basically, it's about Kara Kennedy, who is a female detective. She tries to solve a gruesome murder in this tiny Alaskan town where all the full-time residents live in a single high-rise building. And the setting is inspired by an actual place, a real place in Alaska. It's remote, and I understand that winds can reach 150 miles per hour and temperatures can dip to 35 below. It's a very chilly place. And she becomes trapped in this city after there's a blizzard and an avalanche causes the tunnel to close. And the tunnel is a single lane, very narrow tunnel, and it's the only land route to the city. So she becomes trapped there, and it seems like everyone, including Kara, has secret motives for being there. And the way I've set up the story is that it's told in three voices. So we have Kara Kennedy, the investigator, and then we have Amy Lynn, who's a resident teen, and she's the one who discovers the body parts washed up on the shore. And her mother runs the local Chinese restaurant. And then the third voice is Lonnie Mercer. I call her Moose Lady Lonnie because she keeps a pet moose. And she has a mental disability, which makes her speak in word salads, is what I call it.
Well, we have a lot to talk about, Iris, because oh my goodness, where do we even start? Well, before we get into it, I just want to welcome everyone who is watching with us. So we are broadcasting live to 6 different destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So no matter where you're watching from, you're in the right place. This is the right time. It is Mystery Monday. And because Mondays can be murder, we're going to make them a little less painful for you. So if you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Here's the drill. Every Monday, I give you my handpicked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. So ask this incredible Oscar award nominated screenwriter, this amazing woman who is now turned her talents to writing thrillers on the page. What's that transition been like? What's been different? What's been the same? What's been harder, easier? We got a lot to talk about. Alaska. Why Alaska? Talk about a locked room thriller. Nothing worse than a locked town thriller where the tunnel out has been closed. I'm feeling claustrophobic already. So let's go ahead and dive into the questions. Hi, Wendy. Thanks so much for joining us. She's saying, hi, Sarah and Iris. She's saying, Diane is saying, good evening, Iris. Good evening, Sarah. Hi, Diane, joining us live from YouTube. Welcome. We have someone else saying, being Oscar nominated is amazing. Congratulations, Iris. That is so huge. Iris, let's pause there. So had you always also wanted to write books, or was this, and were you like, well, I've conquered that world. Now let me see what I can do on the page. Tell us about that.
No, I've always wanted to write a book. I hadn't always wanted to write a screenplay. My major actually has nothing to do with writing. It has to do, I was an engineering major. I actually got a master's in mechanical engineering, but my hobby has always been writing since I was little. And so I would go to night classes, and I would take classes in writing, and I was taking night classes in writing novels. And then I could never finish a novel. So everyone in Hollywood, everyone in Los Angeles is writing a screenplay. So I thought, maybe I'll give screenwriting a shot. So I switched classes and I started taking screenwriting classes. And then I thought, oh, wow, there's only like 100 pages with a lot of white space, and I can actually finish this. So I switched, and that's how I started my career. I was working full time, and I just started entering contests with my screenplays, and I actually won one contest where one of the judges was a CAA agent, which is Creative Artist Agency. It's a huge agency in Hollywood. And that's how I got my first job, and how I got the job for the Oscar-nominated film called Letters from Iwo Jima. So that's how I got in, and I really enjoyed screenwriting. But it's very difficult. What I would say the difference is that writing screenplays, the process of writing a screenplay is easier because it's shorter and there's not as much. I mean, no one's going to read actually your actual script other than the people producing, the people who are making the film. But to get it produced to the end product is much harder because there are a lot more people involved. There's like hundreds of people involved. There's a lot more layers of people who have to approve your book. Your screenplay, and there's a lot more money involved. There's millions of dollars involved. So I think like a book is a lot more torturous to write and to finish the book. But it doesn't take as many people to get involved and get their hands in there and then go through approval. And then, it doesn't take millions of dollars to actually produce it. So that's what the biggest difference is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just so that we can compare and contrast, how long did it take you to write Letters from Iwo Jima, and how long did it take you to write City Under One Roof?
Yeah. So writing Letters from Iwo Jima was like maybe 3 months.
Wow.
From the idea to the end, whereas the book took 4 years. So yes, a huge time difference there. And actually the seed of the idea for this book was probably like 8 years ago, because I had originally thought of it as a possible series for like a streaming network, like like a Netflix or an Amazon.
Yes.
So yeah, usually you go the other way, right? Usually there's a book and then it gets adapted, because Hollywood really loves IP, which means intellectual property. So they love books and remakes and sequels and all that. Whereas a book they want original, which is another thing that I love actually about the book writing world, is they want original material, whereas in Hollywood, you're usually, as a writer, working off of someone else's material. So it's much more liberating to write a book. But yes, the process is so much longer.
Wow, I am loving the behind the scenes on the differences and the intricacies of both the screenplay writing world, and then your transition over to the thriller writing world. This is so interesting, and like you said, I think most people think of it going the other way. Oh, you write the book, and then maybe someday you hope it'll be adapted. Like Outlander was adapted 20 years later, or Bridgerton was adapted 20 years later, but you're working, sort of backward. This is just absolutely fascinating. Well, Iris, we have so many questions pouring in for you, and I want to get to all of them. Diane is saying first, congratulations. Yes, congratulations on your book out tomorrow. This is so exciting. We have so much. I have all of your starred reviews here that I can't wait to share with everybody because there is so much praise. But Diane has a really great question. She wants to know, Iris, how do you reward yourself when you finish writing a book?
Well, this is the first book that I actually finished. So
Or
I
she says,
I
"How do you
think
decompress?" She said, "Well, do you do anything to decompress or to celebrate?" Let's hear
yeah,
this.
actually, I did take a trip. I did go
Oh,
on vacation, and I did take a trip to Europe. So, but it's almost like even though I finish, there's so many stages. There's turning in the manuscript, but then you're still going through um, an editing process after that, and then I mean, it just goes on and on. So it doesn't feel like I'm ever quite finished with the book, and then now it's book two is already there. So it seems like there's always work waiting for you. But yes, I did take a trip.
I love that. I was waiting for you to say to Alaska, but because I was thinking, oh, perhaps you returned to the scene of the crime,
I did
literally.
go to Alaska for research, but that was before the book was actually finished.
Ooh,
Yeah,
well, I can't wait to hear about the research trip. But first, let's talk about your celebration trip to Europe, because something that you just said, I think, is something that a lot of people don't know, which is that there is no finish line until that book is out tomorrow when you're finally done. But then begins the next marathon of marketing this baby.
exactly.
Now this is you're joining us tonight for this very special pre-launch event. The night before the book comes out, telling us all about it. But then you'll be doing other interviews and bookstore signings and all sorts of things. So so I think that was one of the things that really surprised me about writing a book, is I kept waiting for this, this deep breath, this exhale to happen, but it never happened because there was always the next marathon of the next stage and then the next book. So,
Yeah, exactly.
so
And
do
even
so
now, I'm thinking about I mean, I'm working on book two, but I'm already thinking about book three. So it seems like it's just a never ending process.
Right, exactly. Okay. Well, you know what? I love that you did take time to go to Europe and celebrate yourself on that way. What a fabulous, fabulous thing to do. Now, let's talk about another trip you took to the scene of the crime, literally and figuratively. I've always dreamed of going to Alaska. I want to see the glaciers. I want to see the salmon. I want to see the mountains, the water, the polar bears. Tell us about this trip to Alaska.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was also the time when, we were in lockdown on COVID, and the lockdowns had just kind of lifted, like we were getting our vaccine. So it was like our first shot of a vaccine and thinking, it's over, and then I can run to Alaska now. And so it was, it felt really great to be out and traveling and everything. So all in
Right.
all, it was a really fun trip. And then we went to, the inspiration for this real city. And I I don't think it's as quite as creepy as the book. And that's why my book is a fictional city. It's not the same, but there are kind of odd things about. I mean, it does have that aspect where it shuts down. The tunnel closes at a certain time, and then you are trapped there at night. And it does only go in one direction, and it's a very long tunnel. It's 2.5 miles. So you're driving through this tunnel, and it really felt like I was falling through a rabbit hole, and I was going to end up in this strange wonderland. And that was actually a jumping off point for some of the characters, because I thought, okay, well, this wonderland is going to be full of these strange and quirky characters like in Alice in Wonderland.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. But the fictional town that you have created, Port Medier, and I'm remembering how you said it in the book, which rhymes with the French getaway, although they joke that it rhymes with dirtier, um, there is a tunnel. So your fictional town, that tunnel is real.
Yes, I mean, in both in the inspiration and in the fictional book, tunnels are a big kind of theme, right? There's the tunnel that you have to drive through to get to the town, and these things are real. There are pedestrian tunnels, because again, it's such a cold, windy city that it's easier just to to travel through tunnels. There's a tunnel from the main building to the school. And the real town, you can't go underneath the building and go through the tunnels that are closed off. But I did read that the original city, which was built as a military base, did have a lot of underground tunnels that traversed between the buildings and through the city, because it was almost like a secret military base. So,
Wow.
so that was very intriguing to me to know that there were all these tunnels, and then how that would add to this feeling of claustrophobia.
Yeah, because the fact that that the daylight is already so limited, and then it's so cold, so you're stuck in there, and then when it snowed, you literally get stuck in there, so it's just getting more and more trapped and claustrophobic feeling. And wow. Okay, wow, I'm loving the backstory on this. We have a mystery user saying, "Hey there, this book sounds so good." Yes, this book is so good. Thank you so much for joining us. Diane has a follow-up question. She's saying, "It's interesting, Iris, that it took 4 years to write your book, but the screenplay was so quick. What was the difference for you in the writing process?" Great question. Let's talk about that.
Well, screenplays again are they're much shorter. They're 100, they're usually about 100 pages or so, and there's a lot of white space because it's mostly dialogue, and you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of the narration. Whereas, when you're writing a book, you're not only the writer, but you're also the cinematography person, cinematographer, you're the director, you're the costume designer, you're the set designer, you're all of that. And you have to think of all of those things when you're writing a book. Whereas, when I write a screenplay, I don't really detail how, for instance, does a character look, because you don't know who's going to get cast in there. So you don't want to limit who's going to get cast by being very detailed on how they look. So that's the main difference. But also, again, there's a long period of time where, as we mentioned, you turn in your manuscript, and after that, it takes at least a year before the book is actually released. And in my case, it was almost 2 years before, after I turned in my first manuscript, that it's getting released. So there's a long process it feels like it's kind of out of your hands. There's that process, which movies are the same way. But in my case, Clint Eastwood was the director, and he is super, super fast. And it's unheard of, that the movie gets produced that quickly. He doesn't give notes. There's times where, in Hollywood, where you call it development hell, where you turn in your script and then there's rewrite after rewrite after rewrite, and they'll hire other writers and so on and so forth. Whereas with Clint Eastwood, it's sort of like, yes or no. Let's do this or not. And, his was let's do this. And then it was very quick. So I don't think that's not normal in Hollywood.
Wow, I did not know that Clint Eastwood, henceforth to be known as Fast Clint, was so speedy. Thank you for this fun fact, Iris. Iris, I want to get into some of the amazing praise that your book. Oh, here's a really good comment. We're going to get into the praise in 1 second. Someone's saying, "I never thought of a writer as being the set designer and the costume designer. That's so cool." Yeah, I loved when you said that. It was such a new way to think of it, because when you're watching a movie, of course, you're depending on the visual aid of storytelling to present that for you. And I loved how you said that. So I'm totally resonating with that as well. Thanks so much for the comment. And Iris, thanks for that very cool analogy. All right, y'all, let's hop into some of this amazing praise, because Iris's book is earning all the praise. So let's kick off with this fabulous review from Publishers Weekly. I'm going to pop it up so we can all read it together. Unusual topography plays a major role in screenwriter Yamashita's atmospherically charged debut that leads to a spellbinding, unforgettable climax and an unpredictable resolution. This distinctively original perspective on, quote, a community of stragglers, oddballs, and recluses heralds the arrival of a major new talent. That is a starred review from Publishers Weekly. Congratulations, Iris. High
Thank you so
praise.
much.
And Publishers Weekly is not the only one dishing out stars. Let's hop over to this starred review from a library journal. I'm going to pop it up as well so we can all read it. The claustrophobic atmosphere in this unique one-building town, isolated by tunnels, weather, and secrets, builds a memorable debut crime novel. A starred review there from Library Journal. And you have earned the triple trifecta of starred reviews. Iris, let's hop over to this one. Kirkus also awarding you a starred review, which you have richly earned. Let's read this one together as well. An urban Alaska detective unlocks menacing secrets in a frigid, sinister small town while struggling to recover from a personal tragedy. Several more or less disreputable residents emerge as suspects as riddles large and small add fuel to the mystery on the way to the final solution. An offbeat, sharply written thriller, and that is from Kirkus themselves. Iris, congratulations. I mean, starred review after starred review. Let's talk about how it took you 4 years to do this. What have you learned about the craft of writing thrillers to such a wonderful acclaim? Give us some of your secrets.
Yeah, it's actually quite a surprise. I'm so happy with the reception. It felt so welcoming to step into this world. And, when you're writing in Hollywood, it feels very isolated and, I don't know, it's just so much warmer to be in this world, I feel, and like talking to people like you and so many warm, welcoming people here.
In the world of killers and crime.
Yes,
Yes,
and the
we're
community.
warm,
I love
welcoming.
the community. It's so great. So I forgot what the question was.
What have you you've published your very first book, you've gotten starred reviews from all the biggies. I mean, congratulations. What do you think when you look back over the 4 years it took you to write this book, which has been released to such incredible starred reviews and praises? What have you learned where you think, you know what, I would do this differently next time, or, oh, I nailed that, I definitely do it the same next time?
I don't know if I never feel like I nailed it, and you're always worried about, like I'm working on book 2. So I'm like, oh no, is this going to live up to book 1 now that all these great reviews have come out? Are people going to be disappointed? So it's always frightening, no matter what you're doing, whether you're writing screenplays or writing books. But I feel like, the process for screenwriting, I feel like, has really helped me in the process for writing books. Because as I had mentioned, I could never finish a novel. And so that's why I switched over to screenwriting. And now screenwriting has given me sort of the tools to figure out like how to outline and how to deal with things like writer's block. So I felt like I came in now better equipped, having gone through the screenwriting. And I do sort of, similar processes between screenwriting and book writing now, which helps me to actually finish. And one of those processes is to write a vomit draft. And I hear other writers say this. The vomit draft is sort of your first go, where you're not really editing yourself. And, for me, it's like a train of thought almost. And I do outline too first, which is something that I also learned from screenwriting, is outlining. And it's a rough outline that will definitely change. But your first draft, you don't want to be precious because you know you're going to throw out a lot of stuff. So you're not going to,
Mm,
I think, I and other writers that I know, when we started off writing, we were trying to be perfect on our first go, right?
mhm, mhm.
But that's where you're going to get stuck, and that's why it's not going to work. So you just go through, and I think mentally it really helps to just, if you don't know what's coming next, skip it and go to the next thing on your
Mm,
outline,
mhm.
and just keep going and just drive through all the way to the end, because that will psychologically make you feel better that you've actually, where it's headed, and you know how it's going to end, even if you don't have all the pieces there together yet.
Oh, I love that. So if you don't know what's coming, just skip it, keep it moving.
Yes, just keep it going. I think mentally, it's helpful, because it's sort of like when you get stuck somewhere and then you're like, I have to write something or else I won't be able to move on.
Mm,
Instead of doing that, skip the part that you're stuck on and just
mm.
move on. But that's why it's important to have an outline or a roadmap,
I
so
love
that you
that.
can skip and you can, write what. Sometimes I'm just like, this is feeling really icky, like, this is
Mm,
terrible writing. I'm going to
yes.
skip over to something that I want to write about that's going to be fun. And that's what I do. And a lot of times that also tells me something, like if I feel something is boring when I'm writing it, I think
Mm.
I should probably change that, because if it's boring to me, it's going to be boring to my readers. And if I'm having fun writing something, then I'm like, okay, this is working, because it'll probably be fun to read as well,
I love that. Using that as an inner
as a
compass.
meter. Yeah.
Michelle says it's so great to be back. Yes, Michelle, it's so great to be back. We were on hiatus for 2 weeks over the holidays, and now we're back and we're revved up for a whole new year of fabulous Mystery Mondays, kicking off the new year strong. Michelle, great to have you back and see your name pop up. Thanks for joining us. Sophie Ann joining us from YouTube. She would like to know what do you think the meaning of writing is, Iris? What is its role in society? Can the written do something to change the world for you? What are your thoughts on what's it all really mean? A deep question there, Sophia.
Change the world. I don't know if I can, I don't know if the writing can change the world, but it definitely, or at least mine, I don't think, but I feel like it's a way of connection.
Mm,
It's also a way to ask questions. Maybe we might not necessarily have the answers. Like, I remember when I was working with Paul Haggis, he said, the writer's goal is to ask questions, but it's not necessarily to answer them.
mm,
But you
mm,
want, you want people to think about things. You want, there's some way of shared, it's a form of shared expression. It's you can teach, you can learn through writing. um but I don't want to say that my writing in particular is going to, you know change the world or
well,
solve any problem.
one of the many things that I really appreciated while reading your book, Iris, was the chance to be in Amy's perspective. So Amy is the teenager who, she and her mom, she's the longest resident of this 210 person town, and she's been there the longest. She's been there for 14 years, which she feels people look at her with pity for, because nobody really stays there that long, and she's been there longer than any other kids. And her mom runs the Chinese restaurant. And so I loved being in Amy's perspective, because it gave me the chance to remember what it was like to be a teenager, which is a dusty memory for me. B, it was a chance to be in the perspective of the other. So she is not, she feels like she's sort of a stranger in a strange town. And what is it like to walk in another person's shoes and to have that experience of, feeling like the police look at her a certain way and I think you're shortchanging yourself a little bit, Iris. I think that the empathy that you're creating and the compassion that you're creating and the point of view that you're allowing that's what I love about reading books is the chance to walk in another's shoes, to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, to read in their perspective, to see the world in their perspective. And you gave us a lot of perspectives here. And I think there's huge value in that because that builds empathy and maybe the world could use a little more empathy now than always.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's true that as writers, we always try to be empaths. Like we try to put ourselves in the shoes of our characters. And I would say even in my movie, which was a war movie about, these Japanese
Yeah.
soldiers, and I'd obviously never been in a war. And these are some of the characters were the most militant, kind of cruel Japanese officers. And even then I was still trying like, well, what's his motivation? Why would he be like, what is he thinking? And I would try to put myself in their shoes and do a lot of research and figure out what's their motive, what made them become like this, and so you try to, even your antagonists, you want to kind of go in their shoes and figure out what were they thinking and why, and just trying to figure them out. It's not always easy. Definitely like Amy, the teenager. It's been a long time since I've been a teenager. And originally, like, I don't think she had that much of a voice. And I just thought like, and I knew it. So I just had to like, well, how do teenagers talk? And what they have sort of a rhythm where they're very, they talk really fast. And, so you just start to try to hone in on what's the difference with how characters speak. And I did have a instructor who told me that a good test for your characters is if you take a line of dialogue, from somewhere, and you pull it out, and then just from that dialogue who's talking. That's a good test that you've gotten, that you have well-developed characters.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's a good test. So is that what you did? You started pulling them out and listening?
Well, I did, because I have 3 characters. I did kind of like a character run where I only took the pages of a certain character, and I was trying to make sure that the tone was consistent and that it was like identifiable.
Ooh. I'm getting a notice that my Wi-Fi is getting wobbly, so I'm just plugging in my Ethernet cable here. I love that dialogue test that you put Amy and the other characters too. Let's get over to Diane has a comment. She says, Iris, as for book 2, living up to book 1, she suggests thinking of it as a separate entity, like each child sharing the same DNA, but are also different individuals. Oh, great point there,
really
Diane.
cool.
I love that perspective.
Yeah, that's a great way to think of it.
Y'all, the book is out tomorrow. So I want to remind you, this is a very special pre-launch event. Iris is coming on to give us the inside scoop. And the book is out tomorrow. So you can grab your copy tonight. You can pre-order it. And the good folks at Murder by the Book, our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore, will send it out to you tomorrow morning. So here is that link, no matter where you're watching from. Be sure to grab your copy here. Oh, great question. Follow-up question. Oh, Sophie Ann, first of all, saying, what a deep answer, though. Yes. Clapping for you there, Iris. Thank you for that deep answer. And Sophie Ann, thank you for that deep question. Diane is noting that earlier in the interview, you said that that the screenwriting had given you the tools to break through writer's block. She's wondering if you could define writer's block for you. Wondering also if you believe in writing by the muse.
Well, when I have a writer's block, which is usually, I have something I have to solve and I can't solve it, is usually the reason why I might get stuck on something. And I've heard a lot of different writers talk about how they deal with that. For me, it's I usually go on a walk. And I go with my husband and I just talk out what my problem is. And usually I get an answer from myself, even though he always credits that he's the one who gives me the answers. But really, it's just like talking it out. Talking it out helps, already helps you resolve the problem, I think. And also activity, I guess, like blood flowing through your through your body gives you a little more juice to your brain. I'm not sure. But and showers is another one. Really weird, but sometimes I think about something in a shower and it comes to you.
Yeah.
But again, like if it's something where there's a problem, sometimes it's a problem with the story itself or the writing itself. And then I told you that I just skip to the next section. And then that helps sometimes, because then you can know whether, oh, maybe I just need to throw that out, or, maybe I don't need that section. Sometimes it can be that. Writing by the muse. I don't even know. What does that mean?
I think that's like when the spirit moves you, but you shared that you're a plotter. So
Yes.
I think writing by the muse would be just waiting for that divine, waiting for that divine inspiration to come, waiting for that. But you're more of a regimented.
Well,
I mean, not
I
regimented,
feel like,
but
yeah, I
planned
think
plotter.
I always start with an outline, but obviously when you're writing, your characters and your story do take on their own life. And then you do go off into tangents and you do end up with something very different from what you've outlined. So sometimes I know, like, the ending, like a general idea of the ending, but the details of it change a lot. So I think I think it's a combination. It's a combination of writing kind of more structured, but then letting whatever, right, the muse, the fancy, whatever, take off. It's always like that.
So you are willing to surrender to the muse, to write by the muse, and allow that divine presence of creativity to guide you to where those characters, which are only existing through the entirety of your creation and definition of them, guide you where you feel as their creator they need to go, and are in fact guiding you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like when I started writing this book, I didn't actually know what everyone's secret was. So I didn't actually know what Amy's secret was until I started thinking about, I don't know if I had a different secret for her, but somehow what ended up in the book is different from what I started.
Ooh, interesting. Very, very cool. Y'all, we are actually out of time, but I did want to share just a few more reviews. This one from Booklist, saying Yamashita knows how to keep her pages turning with plenty of close-up ready characters. Let's pop that up so we can raving that your plotting proves addictive and your final line promises more to come. And the trade reviews are not the only ones raving. Lisa Gardner, the #1 New York Times best-selling author, also had incredible words of praise. Let's praise words of prey. I was thinking birds of prey for a second. She says Northern exposure meets Dexter in this clever thriller in which an isolated community is rocked by a twisted murder, increasingly dark secrets, and the terrifying knowledge that the people they always thought they knew are now the ones they should fear the most. Lisa Gardner coming in with all the praise. And while I share these few last, Diane had one other fabulous question. She wants to know, Iris, what do you do for self-care? How do you keep that part of you nourished? I love that question.
I do try to walk a lot.
Mhm.
I also have 2 cats, which keep me mentally
Oh,
sane, I think, in a way, you always have your cuddly cats nearby.
yeah.
And my husband. Obviously having my husband to talk to on our walks and, you know, forcing me to walk too. I guess.
I love
Yeah, I think we're also trying to eat healthier now.
Oh, okay, okay, a New Year's resolution over there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, CJ Box also coming in with the praise. Let's pop up his review. Number one New York Times bestselling author of Shadows Reel. And he says Iris Yamashita blasts into the world of crime fiction by doing something spectacular, introducing us to a totally unique location and subculture. This is a compulsive page turner that's both atmospheric and claustrophobic at the same time. Well, what a perfect note to end on. Iris, thank you so much for coming in to give us the inside scoop on this very special pre-launch event. Everyone, thank you for joining us live on YouTube and Facebook, wherever you're watching from. Thank you for all your fabulous questions, your presence, your listening, your questions, your thoughtful answers, Iris. This has been such a wonderful interview. And Anne Cleve also had praise to share, which I popped in the comments for everyone to see as well. Iris, congratulations. Happy pub day tomorrow. And please do come back and talk to us when Kara Book 2 comes out.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a pleasure. It went by so quickly. I enjoyed it. And anytime I'd be happy to come back. And thank you so much. Thanks to everyone also who have been with your questions, your thoughtful questions, and for showing up. Thanks so much.
Yay. I'll be back at the top of the hour with New York Times bestselling author Maureen Johnson. Everybody go get a snack, get a drink, and I'll see you then. Have a great night, Iris.